Okay, so now we're going to start reassembling the carburetor. So first thing is we've got the main jet and the needle jet. Now they do unscrew from here. They simply unscrew, and but we're not going to do that because these are brand new. So I'm just going to leave them. I know they're fine. Just going to check there's no swarf or anything in them. But if you're reconditioning your carbs, then you change them. So then it screws into the main body of the carb, and again we're generally on Whitworth. Okay, important that a lot of the nuts and that are Whitworth on the carburettors, and then we want to tighten that, but we don't want to over tighten it. Okay, just get it nice and tight. That'll do fine. Okay, don't over tighten it. Then we get our float bowl. So we've got the float needle, which goes in there, and then we've got the stay up float with the with its sort of hinge pin here. So we put the hinge pin in, and then we put it in. So we catch the needle on its under the head of the needle. Or you can just obviously just put the whole thing in like that. Okay, we make sure that's in, and above all we make sure that the hinge pin is seated. We get our gasket, and then we orientate it to make sure it all fits the holes, and then we line up the body. It's pretty obvious the flat side here goes to the flat side there. Simply slide in, and all you need to do is just make sure you don't dislodge anything in putting it together. About to do this, bit of a mess. And then we're going to put the screws in, as if we can, because I've got everything out. The gaskets are so out of line, I don't know. I didn't do a very good job of putting it on. Yeah, I think that's better. That might go in there. There we go. Just hold everything together while the screw gets done up. Good. And then there's one on the other side. Oh, yeah. And then do them up, but again, don't over tighten them. They've got spring washers on. And as I said before, you can actually bow the body, and so it will leak. Whilst I remember there's an extended tickle pin. On earlier models, they don't have these, and if you're going to replace, if you're going to refurbish your existing carbs, then it's worth fitting an extended tickler like this. But on a T160 and on all Premier carbs that you buy new, they've got the extended tickler fitted anyway, but that does actually just, that button actually does just pull off. Okay, so just a really tight interference fit, it pulls off, and you can actually just press a new extended tickler in. Then we're going to fit the removable pilot jet, which has just has a little rubber O-ring seal at the end. Okay, again, if you're refurbishing your old ones, then remember that. Now, do you buy the last one on Premier carbs and that? Do you buy new or old? It doesn't matter in my book. What I say is you must though get it sorted. Don't just put your old carbs on, because they do wear really quickly, and then the bike will never run right. So either refurbish your old ones or buy new ones, but don't just think, oh, I think this will be okay, because from my experience they won't be okay unless they've been replaced, very recently. Right, okay, so screwed the removable pilot jet in, and that's the body about together. Okay, before moving on, there's something I just wanted to mention, and that is these pilot holes. I'm going to try and indicate them. Right, okay, see there's one there, just where the end of my tip of my finger is, and another one there. Now those are where the pilot circuit comes out to feed the idle on the engine. So just those two little holes, and so you get an idea of why they easily get blocked up. Now when you're cleaning them out or whatever, then you need to make sure that you put some carb, when you clean them out, put some carb cleaner down and just make sure you've got carb cleaner coming out of those two holes, because if it isn't, then it's still blocked. So then we're going to move on to the throttle slide. We've got the clip in the middle groove, number 2, so that slots down inside the throttle slide. There we go. Then there's a little notch on the side of the throttle. You can see that, I hope so. And there's a groove in the side of the body. So you align those two up, and at the same time you're looking down into the venturi and just checking the needle goes down into it goes down through the needle jet. And when they're lined up, it just drops down. Nice and smooth, but without any gap. Let's see. Yeah, that's good, that's good. You see, it's nice and smooth, but there's no gap there. Okay, then I've gone wrong already. Okay, because of course the first thing we need to do is put the throttle rods in. These are the old ones. Okay, I recommend, if you've got the old ones, keep them, because the new ones, I've had the quality control isn't great. I've had heads come off that haven't been soldered on properly. Okay, so then there's a system where you put it down through there's like 2 holes. You put it down through the bigger hole, then move it across, and then it locks in the smaller hole. Good. Do that first. Then put the needle down, which goes down into the bigger hole that we've just vacated. Then slide the assembly down into the carburetor body. There. Then we can just put the spring on. Now all those old little springs and collets, those horrible things that were on just forget them. Even if it's a T150, just forget them. You don't need them. They were never needed. So then we put the main spring on, throttle spring, and that's the body done. Right, so we're going to start fitting the carb top. Okay, so let's see. First of all we need those little clips that were on the old carbs, and they've got a little bit of rubber underneath. Now often that rubber's missing. To be honest, I honestly don't think you need that rubber, but it is supposed to be there with the idea of stopping air leaks. So it's on the old one and we got it, and so I'm going to reuse it. So clips on, screwed in via the choke, sort of nipple. Okay. Then we've got the choke. Now on this, the cables are all the same length. Often they're different, but they're the same length on here, so that's fine. I'm just going to use whichever one. I just mentioned that a lot of people don't use the choke. A lot of people leave the choke out, in which case all you do is literally just leave out the choke and just leave everything exactly as it is, just without the cable and without the actual bits of the choke. What some people do is then fill the hole in the slide, but you don't need to do that. What you can do, you can block off the hole where the choke cable goes, but I don't even think it's necessary to do that, but that's what some people do. I tend to use the choke, leave the choke in, because on my bikes they're kept in the basement, and even when it's warm, it's cold in here, and they just like a little bit of choke to get going, or on a cold summer's day or whatever. but you know, it's up to you. Right, okay, so what we got? So choke cable, let's get this right. Choke cable going in. Okay, through the nipple. Then we have the little tube that's going to sit in the top there. Make sure the choke's off, yeah, because it gives us that much more to play with. Then we slide the spring on. Okay, we compress the spring so the nipple's just sticking out. Get the open end that goes in, and the nipple goes up through that groove. And slide it along. There, until it comes out the end. There we go. And then it slots in there and that traps it. And there you go. Chokes in, a bit fiddly but done. So then we've got the carb body. I'm going to connect the top to the carb body. So we want the spring in. T160 throttle springs, really nice and light. That's the only spring you need. Really makes the throttle nice and light, because obviously you've got 3 carbs that you're trying to open at the same time. Throttle rods in. And on T150s, by the way, I always change them to a T160 spring. Even now they sell them with very strong springs for the T150. T160 springs much lighter. Okay, so that's on there. And then we've got the tricky bit. Let's see if we can do it. What we've got to do then is try and put the throttle rod through this hole here, so it comes out the top there, whilst also getting the choke in. So the spring, the top of the spring goes there on that sort of round mounting, which is where the throttle rod's going to go through. So we have to orientate the top so it's in the right place for the carb, for the choke. Alright, okay. Let's get the choke in the throttle slide if we can. This is definitely why you need 3 pairs of hands. There we go. Now I'm going to see if I can get the throttle rod to come up through the nearly. Trying to encourage the throttle rod to come up through that rubber, and that it should now, because the rubber is going to prevent it from going back down again. And then we can screw the top on. Where's it gone? Blimey, alright. There, and that's the main part of the carburetor assembled. Obviously we're going to have to set the choke cable later on. We're going to have to, what we call, synchronize the carbs later on. We'll do that when they're all done, back on the gantry. But that's the assembly of the carb completed, and so I'm going to do exactly the same now with the other 2 carbs. Okay, all carbs rebuilt, and the choke cables are put on, which are not set. I haven't set the choke cables yet. We'll do all the settings and that later on when everything's finished. Right, time to start fitting the carburettors back onto the gantry. Okay, a couple of things before we start. I actually opened the pack of sundries to discover, well, I knew there these O-rings. Now it's very important to use new O-rings on the carburetor manifold, carburetor flange. They do crushed, so do try and use new ones. Of course, because this is a triple, we're actually mounting them onto the gantry, so unlike sort of Bonvilles and other bikes where you actually bolt the carb straight onto the cylinder head on the manifold, these go onto a gantry, so there's actually less chance of this flange warping. So I don't know of any air leaks that have come from here on a triple, but obviously use new O-rings. Number two, I didn't know, but oh, they've put in new little rubbers, and those rubbers are what goes through the throttle ring, the throttle rod, to stop air getting down. And what I've done is, I didn't know that these were in there. This is a new thing, I'm fairly sure. And so I just use the old sort of agricultural ones that someone's just cut out of an old piece of rubber, sort of, you know, piece of rubber they'd lying around, but they work fine. But obviously, if I'd have known that those were in there, always helps to open the packaging first. Throttle rod seal kit. There you go. That's what it is. So they would normally go on there, but they're on now, so they're quite happy they're going to stay there. And also, yes, the carburetor has been assembled with a lightweight throttle spring. And if you've got a T150, I'll tell you that is a joy. If they fitted those to T150s as well, because the springs, for some reason on the T150s, are killers. So if you're going to buy T150 kits, always check that they do have this lightweight throttle spring, because if you're lifting 3 carbs at once, it can be a real weight. Right, so we're just about to put them on. It's very simple. That we simply just put these 3 on. I'll maybe video a bit of it. The main thing we have to do is to get the carbs in the right order, because we have 2 right-hand carbs with a tickler on the right and 1 left-hand carb with a tickler on the left. So obviously they need to be in the correct order, because in the past someone, can't think who, actually forgot to check that and mounted the carbs only to discover that these 2 are the wrong way round, so that the famous tickle lift on the T160 won't work because the tickler was on the other side. I mean, it doesn't matter, it's just you can't reach it, and of course on the outer carb I couldn't reach that tickler. There we go. So, and as with dismantling, we put the centre one on first so that we can reach the nuts. Right, so that's the first, the centre carb in place. Just need to tighten the flange nuts up there. You don't want to do them as with any carb. I'm not over tighten these. Again, just to stop the possibility of warping. Just get them nice and tight, but not over tight. There we go. And then just got to repeat the operation, which is a bit fiddly, only because the carb bits are in the way. Make sure the O-rings are in place. I'm just going to repeat this now with the other 2 carbs, remembering that there isn't a stud on this left one, because that's where the choke's going to go in a minute. Right, all 3 carbs on, and the choke cable, etc., in place. Okay, check that we haven't, I've done this before, trap the tickle lever in the flange there. Good. Okay, so then we're going to put the operating parts of the gantry on, and then we can set the rest of the carbs. Pop it up a bit. What have we got? Yeah, okay. So we've got the bar. These have all been oiled, by the way, obviously. I'm so glad I do this on camera sometimes. Okay, that goes in there. Then there's 2 circlips that go either side to stop the bar coming out, which I haven't got at the moment. They're on order, so I'll put them in later. Okay, and that's all freely rotating. And then we've got the actual throttle bar that the 3 throttle rods screw into. Okay, And when that's in and we've actually managed to get these rods screwed in, then we can actually adjust the carbs. Actually, I don't know why don't I use a pair of yeah, absolutely. I've got no brain sometimes. Use a pair of mini mole grips. Would make life a lot easier, wouldn't it? There. Oh, Chris, that's so much easier. There, and then using a small screwdriver, we're going to screw the throttle rod okay, it's just about through, and then we're going to do that with a second two, so all the until all the throttle rods are screwed up. Right, I've managed to screw the throttle rods back up through the throttle bar. The throttle slides are opening. So what we're going to do now is synchronize the carbs. Synchronize the carbs. So much is talked about synchronizing carbs. Now basically all that means is we're going to make sure that they all open at the same time.